my name's John Cordy, and all I want for Christmas is for the plumber to unblock the U-bend, obviously. Right, today, obviously you've seen me do lots of stuff with the Helix before, and playing with the Helix and all that sort of stuff. Today I just wanted to look at some of the artist presets and see what we could learn from them, if anything. So I picked 3. The clever thing to do with these presets would have been to have a talking head, I think. So this is Misha's preset. I think it might have been a smart move to have Misha talking about what he'd done, and the same goes for all of the other artists. But I think it's really cool that we've got these presets to get an insight into what they were thinking, and so I just wanted to pull out a couple of learnings that I've made from these. So this is Bob's Rhythm preset. It's quite aggressive. First thing to do potentially if you're using single coils is to turn off that first gate. So I know that in the past Misha Mansoor used to use a Pod XT, and he used to use the big bottom, which is basically like the old version of the Line 6 Badonk. And I also know that he used to use Voxengo Curve EQ, which you would use in the digital audio workstation. He always used to say that the post-production was the more important part of his tone, and so I guess that's something to factor in when you're listening to what his preset sounds like, and maybe you think that sounds like periphery tones or doesn't. Here's the one learning that I got from this preset. So he's using a dual cab block, and I had a few people ask me, why is this volume pedal positioned here? Seemed a bit strange. So I guess you'll probably hear if I do this. So what I think he's done is, I think he's using a mono volume pedal block to sum this dual cab block to mono. I think that's the reason for putting that there, and it definitely seems to alter the tone, I think in this case in a positive way. So that was one learning. So potentially if you've got a dual cab block, or you're trying to build heavy presets or something, this is something that Misha Mansoor's done, so there must be a reason for it. I feel like it is kind of it's doing something to darken the tone, and maybe remove some of that higher end fizzy stuff potentially, and so maybe that's something worth looking into. Buck Texas preset I think I preferred. So I guess the learning from this particular preset is not necessarily you have to go wild for things to sound pretty good. So Chris is running this top signal chain straight into the one beneath, so you've got like 2 layers of DSP, but on this top layer all he's got are trems and drives and vibes, and then on the bottom he's letting this do his Lone Star, Mezzo-Boogie Lone Star, into another Mezzo-Boogie cab, and then 2 delays and 2 reverbs, and I guess a vote for the legacy reverbs there. quite a wet sound. But I think some cool stuff going on in that preset as well. That's another thing actually. I noticed that Misha's ambient presets, and a lot of these, the ambient tones are a little bit more ambient than I'm used to. So I'll just have a look at what the mix is. So that's a 42 mix, which is pretty high, I find, for reverb. So I tend to not take my reverbs up past sort of like 30%, I think, or, you know, often lower than that. But sort of bloom over what you're playing. But anyway, so other ways that you can potentially set up stuff if you're someone like Chris Buck who's used to using just a normal pedal board. This is absolutely a way that you could do things, but for me, I tend to use snapshots so that I can switch up the amp settings and speaker settings with just one switch, and you know, that's the way I prefer to do things. I found this preset from Rabea quite interesting. He's made it sound like pretty aggressive double tracking with a hard pan left and right, and also by choosing a different amp on each side. So yeah, I find this preset kind of interesting because it's so simple, and yet kind of works quite well. And also notice that he's not using the high cut, which is also quite interesting. But a good preset to check out if you're into rhythm tones and heavy stuff. Here's the kind of a really cool preset that I think is definitely worth digging into. And I think this is based on a Ben Vesco routing. You'll see it might be based loosely on this kind of routing, which there's a video on. I've done a video on it. I think Rhett's done a video on it. Ben Vesco's done a video on it. I found it in this template. Ben Vesco's also done this routing before. So yeah, template 2 tones A, B gives you a really powerful way to route your signal and use dual amps as well as loads of other effects. See, this is in stomp mode. I've got a feeling that Rhett is probably using this kind of view. I'm guessing, because like me, he's got it set up along the bottom, so ambient here. So, ambient, cleanish, and then amp drive, and you'll see this changes the settings on the amp. So this is kind of the powerful thing about snapshots. Essentially, you can change almost every aspect that you want to with just one button switch. So he's changing drive, basically the amp settings completely across both amps. So he's got an AC30 amp and also a matchless channel 2. So I think that's kind of interesting. And then, so he's got 2 main amp settings. So it's either clean, he's got 3 actually. So between the ambient tones and the clean tones, he cuts the bass drastically. And then the amp drive and solo boost, I think those settings are the same. One thing that he's not doing, which I'm kind of surprised-ish by is that he's not using the cab high cut at all. So for clean tones, I personally like to have that high cut open up higher than that, and then for drive tones I would like to cut it back a little bit. I think you might hear as you increase the gain, some of that fizzy kind of hair around the notes, and I think that might be personally where I might move the high cut down a little bit. If I was going for a kind of smoother tone, obviously. In terms of whether it sounds more real or not, I'm not sure, but I prefer it when we get rid of some of that higher end stuff when we're using higher gain. Because that kind of little fizzy thing is what, to me, has that digital sound, although I know it's not exclusive to digital tones, but it's something I hear more of. So those were kind of the things that jumped out at me. For me, I think this is kind of the power user's way to use the Helix. So it's interesting to see, you know, which guys I think have spent more time with the Helix, and it's clear that Rhett here has spent quite a bit of time and, you know, using snapshots in this kind of way. Is kind of, I think, one of the advanced power moves, and also using this kind of routing, I think, is one of those things that you'll see the power Helix users doing. I think it's really the best way to use a dual amp setup if you're wanting lots of effects with it, aside from if you're wanting to do the Rabea thing, essentially, you know, just running two straight paths that are panned hard left and hard right. I think also there's definitely value there, or running two completely different signals in any case. So for one of mine, I run like a poly alongside a lead tone. That's something you might want to try, but I'm gonna record an intro now with this preset. Hopefully this was vaguely interesting. I just thought it might be interesting to see what other people were doing with their presets. Check out those presets if you want. I think you can get them in the release notes for 3.0. You can get them as a set list. There's a few interesting ones in there. I think Rhett's is one of the better ones, Chris's is one of the better ones, and I think Rabea's chug preset is amazing. So yeah, check those out, and thank you for stopping by. If you want my own presets, you can get them in the description as well. I thought maybe this was a good opportunity to see what other people are doing and see if we could learn some things from it. So cheers.